Hey everyone, Harry here. Isn't this a cute little fact? The Trump Justice Department in 2016 to 2020 secretly obtained records of congressional staffers, including Kash Patel. So we've now learned that the actual guy who's been tabbed to maybe head the FBI was himself surveilled, scrutinized by the Trump DOJ. And why? The Trump Justice Department, and we're not sure what role Trump played here, there are other facts still to come out, but they did what really seems to be overreaching and improper surveillance of congressional staffers to try to figure out supposedly who had leaked information. So the notion is, and they are really, really fit to be tied about the Mueller investigation, everything having to do with 2016. And how did Congress come to possess certain information? And that was an obsession of Trump. And in some ways, maybe by direct communication, which really shouldn't have happened. That's the wall that Trump is now demolishing, but that was intact before. But Session, the Attorney General, basically green-lighted investigation of two members of Congress, actual members of the House of Representatives, and 43 staffers. And that includes Patel, who was a staffer at the time. And the members of Congress were apparently Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell, so really prominent folks, maybe the two most prominent. Obviously, Trump completely burned about the information that people possessed on the Hill, starting with Schiff and Swalwell, and they went to all these measures. Now, let me take a step back and say, look, there are some instances, but they're really rare or supposed to be, and they're full of procedural kinds of protections when the DOJ can try to go after leaks and figure out who has given out information, which is a crime, as we all know now, because Donald Trump did it so promiscuously after leaving office with taking all this information with him and the like. But basically, somebody seems to have green-lighted a pretty broad sweep that it's hard to see, to imagine that it was all on the, if not up and up, the conventional story for getting at leaks. And the reason we know now what we do know is because there's an Inspector General report that basically says just that. Doesn't recommend charging anyone, doesn't go into depth, at least as publicly reported, about who did what, but definitely notes that, they, to say the least, T's weren't crossed and I's weren't dotted. And it's a serious thing for the Department of Justice to try to surveil or get the records of especially members of Congress, who are responsible for overseeing the Department of Justice. And it's really, there are important guardrails here that, surprise, surprise, were not complied with. You have to sort of convene a committee before you do it. You have to, if you want to, as they did here, not have the targets know that their records were searched. You need to get Attorney General approval. And we know that they didn't get the required AG approval. And by the way, they got these non-disclosure orders in 40 of the congressional cases. So the 40 out of the 43 or so never knew about the breach. One later learned about it I think that was a CNN reporter. But from what we know from the IG report, the whole thing stinks and has Trump's, if not fingerprints, his interests and obsessions all over it. The topics were political. They had a lot to do with how the FBI responded to the 2016 election. Recall that in March of 2017, when Trump fired Comey, there was talk of invoking the 25th Amendment or of Rod Rosenstein wearing a wire. We've now come to appreciate what an aberrant figure Trump is, but at the time, everyone was wigged out and nervous, and within DOJ, people were angry repeatedly about how this information wound up on the Hill. So they wanted to find out about stuff that was in the Washington Post. They wanted to find out about stuff at CNN, and they wanted to find out about stuff that Schiff and Swalwell said in hearings. And the Inspector General report is express. They did not follow department procedure once they decided to subpoena records from journalists, which again is, if not quite a third rail, something you have to be very circumspect about. And since then, after the Trump first term, there were more guardrails put into place. Now, of course, it could well be that Trump comes back in and just completely mows them down. So anyway, there's the kind of news hook. Kash Patel is one of the people whose records were searched out, and they thought that maybe he had something to do with leaks of information from DOJ, even the Republican DOJ, and then there are many others. But I think really that's a kind of clever little angle on the story. The real story is that in 2016 and 17, the Trump DOJ was pursuing very aggressively and without going through all the required motions, leak investigations. And it's dubious, I think, when we get the whole story, that they're anchored as they need to be in strictly in kind of plausible criminal actions, as opposed to just getting political info and digging up dirt or digging up information for the administration to be aware of who is saying bad things about them. Not the sort of thing that the U.S. Department of Justice is supposed to be doing. It's the kind of thing that happens in authoritarian countries. And of course, that may well be what we're revisiting and expanding on starting January 20th. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.